Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 15. Starting a new chapter here. And this is entitled The Creative Impetus. And there's a little summary before we begin the actual verses. So, very short summary. Now, glories to Srila Prabhupada. Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Śrīvāsadī Gaur Bhaktavinda. That's the creative impetus is Canto, is the Canto, title of the Canto. The chapter 15, is called The Glories of the Descendants of King Priyavrata. And King Priyavrata was the son of Vyāsadeva, who was an incarnation of the Lord. And then we just read about Maharaj Bharata. He was the descendant of King Priyavrata. He was the eldest son of King Priyavrata. So this is going back to about the 8th or 9th generation, somewhere around there, from the beginning of the population of the universe, the beginning of the creation of the universe. So here's a summary. In this chapter, the descendants of Bharat Maharaj and many other kings are described. The son of Maharaj Bharata was named Sumati. He followed the path of liberation given by Vyāsadeva. Some people mistakenly thought Sumati to be the direct incarnation of Lord Buddha. The son of Sumati was Devatajit, and his son was Devadumya. Devadumya's son was Parameshti, and his son was Pratiha. Pratiha was a very great devotee of Lord Vishnu, and he had 3 sons named Pratihartha, Prashtota, and Udgata. Pratihartha had 2 sons, Aja and Bhuma. The son of Bhuma was Udgita, and the son of Udgita was Prastava. The son of Prastava was Vibhu. The son of Vibhu was Pritushen, whose son was Nakta. The wife of Nakta, Dhruti, gave birth to Gaya, who was a very famous and saintly king. Actually, King Gaya was a partial incarnation of Lord Vishnu. Because of his great devotion to Lord Vishnu, he received the title Mahapurusha. King Gaya had sons named Tritarata, Sumati, and Avarodhana. The son of Tritarata was the emperor Samrat, and his son was Marichi, whose son was Bindu. Bindu's son was Madhu, Madhu's son was Viravrata. Viravrata, 2 sons were Mantu and Pramantu, and the son of Mantu was Bhavana. The son of Bhavana was Twasta. The son of Twasta was Viraja, who glorified the whole dynasty. Viraja had 100 sons and 1 daughter. Of these, the son named Satyajit became very famous. So, that gives us a little idea of what this chapter is, genealogy. And doesn't appear that it goes into much detail about the activities and pastimes of the activities of these people. There's not much discussion of detail, but we can get some idea of the genealogy. So, text 1. This is Sukadeva Goswami telling Maharaj Parikshit about the genealogy, the history of the human race. People, the anthropologists go, they dig up bones and pieces of broken pottery trying to figure it out. Well, here it is right here. This is the genealogy. Srila Sukadeva Goswami continued. The son of Maharaj Bharat, known as Sumati, followed the path of Rishabdev, but some unscrupulous people imagined him to be Lord Buddha himself. These people, who were actually atheistic and of bad character, took up the Vedic principles in an imaginary, infamous way to support their activities. Thus, these sinful people accepted Sumati as Lord Buddhadev and propagated the theory that everyone should follow the principles of Sumati. In this way, they were carried away by mental concoction. It's interesting because this is being spoken 5,000 years ago, and the incarnation of Krishna as Buddha appeared 2,000 years ago. So these pastimes are eternal. The pastimes are eternal, just like sometimes people imagine that Krishna incarnating. So these incarnations are there, and they're discussed in the Vedas, and they're even forecast. Lord Chaitanya's appearance is forecast in the Vedas. It's said that the incarnations of Krishna, it's like they're always there. Everything is there in Krishna, always. It's just not always manifest. Or actually, another way to understand it, or to try to get some perspective on it, some realization, is that like the sun in the sky, sometimes it appears as high noon, and sometimes it appears like in the afternoon, and sometimes it appears in early morning. So from these different angles of vision, the sun appears differently. But the sun is always the same. It's just how the sun is manifest at a certain time, or like that. So Krishna, he's always Krishna, and everything is Krishna. But at certain times he appears one way and appears another way, and also according to what part of the universe. And there are multi-universes also. So this incarnation of Lord Buddha is one of his eternal incarnations, like Lord Nrsimha, Lord Vraha. These are eternal pastimes that take place. And just like Krishna says, wherever and whenever there's a decline of religious principles, I invent myself, millennium after millennium. So according to what that decline is like and what remedy is needed at that particular time and circumstance and place, then Krishna appears in that particular incarnation. So people mistakenly jump to the conclusion, imagine that the son of Maharaj Bharata, Sumati, was Lord Buddha, but they were wrong. It was, say, unscrupulous people. That means they had, other than to serve the Lord, they had some other agenda. So they presented this for their agenda. That's always how it works. They have some agenda other than serving and glorifying and becoming conscious and pure-hearted devotional service to the Lord, free from material attachment. They were unscrupulous. They had material attachment, and they had some other purpose, and it was advantageous to them to try to present this for their own advantage. So that's unscrupulous. So these people, who were actually atheistic and of bad character, took up Vedic principles in an imaginary, infamous way to support their activities. They twisted it around. They twisted the words of the Vedas And then they claimed that they were following Lord Buddha. Because what does Lord Buddha do? That particular incarnation, he discourages people from following the Vedas because they're misusing the Vedas. And says to just follow him, and he gives them at least moral and human, at least brings them to a higher platform that way. He can't give them directly devotional service. He's disguised because he says, don't worry if there's God or not, just follow me and you'll get free from your suffering. And he does. He frees them. Makes some instead of committing offenses in the name of the Vedas, just avoid the Vedas and just take instruction from me. So it's a very indirect kind of disguised. He's good at disguises like that. In order to get things done, sometimes it has to be. It's like to take the medicine. Sometimes the mother says, "Oh, it's a delicious. You'll love this. It's so sweet. It's candy." And you take it, and it's a bitter medicine, but it has to be taken. If you say, "Oh, it's a little bitter," you don't want it. So sometimes it's disguised. And so that was going on evidently with the son of Maharaj Bharata. It's Prabhupada's commentary. Those who are Aryan strictly follow the Vedic principles, but in this age of Kali, a community has sprung up known as the Arya Samaj, which is ignorant of the import of the Vedas and the Parampara system. Their leaders decry all bona fide acharyas, and they pose themselves as the real followers of the Vedic principles. These acharyas who do not follow the Vedic principles are presently known as the Arya Samaj, or the Jains. Not only do they not follow the Vedic principles, but they have no relationship with Lord Buddha. Imitating the behavior of Sumati, they claim to be the descendants of Rishabhdev. And Prabhupada mentioned this briefly in his purport when a few chapters back in the discussion of Lord Rishabhdev. And now he's getting a little more clarity on this, that's how it happened. They imitate the behavior of Sumati and claim to be descendants of Rishabhdev, so that looks like the behavior of Sumati is not to follow anything. They don't accept Vedic principles, they don't accept the cyclic succession, and they say they're following Vedic principles, they're not actually following them. And they offend the bona fide devotees and pose themselves as Vedic followers. And that is Arya Samaj, or the Jains. Now we know Rishabhdev, he was dirty, he's the personality of Godhead, but his presentation was, he was unclean, unkept, didn't follow any rules, just wandered around, didn't really make any contribution to the structure of society. In his avadut stage, before he was avadut, he was very responsible, but then later on he took this avadut posture, and so they just jump right into it, a life of evidently irresponsibility. Prabhupada's commentary. Those who are Vaishnavas carefully avoid their company because they're ignorant of the path of the Vedas. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Vedaischa sarvara meva vedya. The real purpose of the Vedas is to understand me. This is the injunction of all Vedic literatures. One who does not know the greatness of Lord Krishna cannot be accepted as an Aryan. Lord Buddha, an incarnation of Lord Krishna, adopted a similar means to propagate the philosophy of Bhagavatam. He preached almost exclusively among atheists, Atheists do not want any God. Lord Buddha therefore said that there is no God, but he adopted the means to instruct his followers for their benefit. Therefore he preached in a duplicitous way, saying, there is no God. Nonetheless, he himself was an incarnation of God. How merciful is that? How merciful is that? You know, if you go to atheists and say, all right, you have to surrender to God, immediately you're going to reject. So he said, okay, there is no God, but he was God. And by following him, he could benefit them, he could help them. It's a little bit of infiltration into the camps there. Infiltrated, disguised himself and infiltrated. And from the inside, he did what he could to help them. And this still goes on. This is still very popular, Buddhist. Text 2. From Sumati, a son named Devatajit was born by the womb of his wife, Vridrasen. Probably won't be many purports on this, because they're just listing the genealogy. He's just listing the genealogy. Therefore, in the womb Asuri, now these are our, I mean, it goes way back, but these are our ancestors. I mean, you're talking, I don't know how many generations, because this goes back to the beginning of the creation. But we are descendant from these people. So we're hearing about our family tree. This is our family tree. This is our genealogy. More or less. Be a little hard to trace it out, but at least we're hearing about these. How this works. Whether we're directly in line or not is highly unlikely, but we are related. Of course we're related. Krishna's everyone's father. So I don't know, but this is the genealogy of humanity. Thereafter, in the womb of Asuri, the wife of Devatajit, a son named Devadumna, was begotten. Devadumna begot in the womb of his wife Dhenumati, a son named Pramesti, and Paramesti begot a son named Pratiha in the womb of his wife Suvarchala. Text 4. King Pratiha personally propagated the principles of self-realization. In this way, not only was he purified, but he became a great devotee of the Supreme Person, Lord Vishnu, and directly realized him. Commentary. The word anusasmara is very significant. God consciousness is not imaginary or concocted. The devotee who is pure and advanced realizes God as he is. Maharaj Pratiha did so, and due to his direct realization of Lord Vishnu, he propagated self-realization and became a preacher. A real preacher cannot be bogus. He must first of all realize Lord Vishnu as he is. As confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Upadekshanti ye jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. One who has seen the truth can impart knowledge. The word tattvadarshi refers to one who has perfectly realized the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a person can become a guru, propound Vaishnava philosophy all over the world. The paragon of bona fide preachers and guru is Pratiha. So there's the template right there. And Prabhupada's making that point that a real preacher cannot be bogus. No, the disciples, they assist a real preacher. And by repeating what they're hearing, whether they have much realization or not, that's something else. But by following the instructions of the real preacher, the pure devotee, the self-realized soul, the Krishna-conscious pure devotee, by serving such a person, then they're actually empowered. they're empowered. Now, whether they personally have that kind of realization themselves, they may not. But as long as they're strictly following and trying to serve the mission of that great devotee, then they're properly situated, and at some point, their own purification will become more and more, and to the point where they also have that very desired, coveted, sought-after consciousness where they actually are developing pure devotion to Krishna. And the purification is working in them also. So by serving a real preacher, coming in close contact, and becoming like the preacher, they will become like that devotee. They'll become a devotee themselves by acting like a devotee. And then the impurities are, they have different attachments as they present themselves, can be rooted out and given up, burned up by the fire of devotion. So it's not just guidance by a pure devotee. Of course there is guidance, but it's being engaged in the service of the pure devotee. We're engaged in the service of the pure devotee. Not just that the pure devotee guides us in our activities with what we want to do. It's not so much like that. In the beginning it might be, but to actually be engaged in serving the Guru, the spiritual master. So here Pratiha was such a spiritual master, and he sets the standard. What is it? Whatever actions a great man performs, other men follow. Whatever standards he sets, all the world pursues. So Prabhupada is telling us here that this King Pratiha was such a person. And the way he was like that is he first of all realized Lord Vishnu as he is. He himself. First he realized, and then he began to preach as a realized soul. So there's different ways to approach Krishna. A real preacher can't be bogus. He must have first of all realized Lord Vishnu. So such a preacher is there, representative of Krishna, realized Krishna within the heart completely, and to the perfection of Bhagavan and his relationship with Krishna. And then those that try to assist and take instruction from and try to assist such a preacher, they all benefit. So that's King Pratiha. Such a person can become a guru and propound Vaishnava philosophy all over the world. Prabhupada is such a guru, and he's offering his respects to the paragon of bona fide preachers, King Pratiha. Text 5. In the womb of his wife Suvarchala, Pratiha begot 3 sons, Pratihartha, Partoshta, and Udgata. These 3 sons were very expert in performing Vedic rituals. Pratihartha begot 2 sons named Aja and Bhuma in the womb of his wife named Stuti. Okay, they were very expert in performing Vedic rituals. Text 6. In the womb of his wife, Rishikulya, King Bhuma begot a son named Ugita. From Ugita's wife, Devakulya, a son named Prastava was born, and Prastava begot a son named Vibhu through his wife. Niyucha, name of his wife. In the womb of his wife, Rati, Vibhu begot a son named Pritushena. Pritushena begot a son named Nakta in the womb of his wife, named Akuti. Nakta's wife was Druti, and from her womb the great king Gaya was born. Gaya was very famous and pious. He was the best of saintly kings. Lord Vishnu and his expansions, who are meant to protect the universe, are always situated in the transcendental mode of goodness known as Vishuddha-sattva. Being the direct expansion of Lord Vishnu, King Gaya was also situated in Vishuddha-sattva. Because of this, Maharaj Gaya was fully equipped with transcendental knowledge. Therefore he was called Mahapurush. Well, I can just imagine or just kind of visualize or appreciate the great opulence that must have been with King Gaya. So these are, it looks like they're all very elevated personalities, and it's the generations, and then the appearance of an actual direct expansion of Lord Vishnu is there, and that's that King Gaya. Prabhupada's commentary. From this verse it appears that the incarnations of God are various. Some are part and parcel of the direct expansions, some are direct expansions of Lord Vishnu. A direct incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called Amsa or Smamsa, whereas an incarnation from Amsa is called Kala. Among the Kalas there are Vibhinamsa Jivas, or living entities. These are counted among the Jiva Tattvas. Those who come directly from Lord Vishnu are called Vishnu Tattva, sometimes designated as Mahapurush. Another name for Krishna is Mahapurush, and a devotee is sometimes called Mahapurushika.